One day I'll get quicker at clicking these buttons the appropriate way. Welcome to SHL Tonight, everybody. We've got another fun episode here coming off the heels of a really tumultuous episode last week where we announced our new expansion GMs. What better to do than to, hey, let's have them all on the podcast as well. So alongside me, our normal co-host, Hiff. I mean, we'll use the term normal very loosely, but glad to have you back, Hiff. And then our special guests for today's episode, we have the host of Hockey Talk Tonight, and one of our newest expansion GMs, Seven himself. Seven, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty well, thanks. I can also give you an insight. The button switching for getting the cameras brought up from the splash screen never gets quicker. You think so, and then you forget to unmute the mic or something else goes wrong. Just never actually works. I promise.
Yeah. Know all about that for sure. And we also have our fourth GM as well, Rashford. Remember, you are the fourth expansion GM out of 4, so just keep that in mind. How are you doing, Rashford?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Good. It sounds like you're really excited to be here.
No, I just have 2 sick kids at home, and I'm fully expecting one of them to wake up and run in here, so it should be a good time.
Can you just say we got to get the pucks in deep and put in our best effort for the boys? Also, just a reminder, try to go on the Twitch. We're trying to get involvement there for the points. So if you can kind of funnel the engagement there, it'll bring in some cool stuff we could add to the podcast later. So please go on the Twitch.
Thank you, Hiff. Yeah, and you can see the link right there on the banner below. It's www.twitch.tv/Simulation Hockey League. So go over there. You don't have to watch us every time there, but toss us a follow. It'll really help us build out some cool channel point redemptions down the road. So yeah, we've got some fun stuff going on today. We're going to talk about, obviously HFFO was kind enough to reveal his brand prior to our podcast. So we have some actual branding stuff to talk about, which is exciting. But we also want to kind of talk about, the expansion applicants that were awarded a team, their mentality behind why they chose to apply. I mean, obviously everybody's in a little bit of a different situation, right? I mean, you have Seven, who's been the head of the Carolina Kraken for so long. And you've got Rashford, who's been, the co-GM of the Aurora for a long time, the co-GM of the Panthers, been that stalwart in the SSL for so long. So people are coming from different areas. So we want to spend some time today talking about, their mentality and the reason why they chose to apply. So, but before we do that, just want to make sure, once again, go ahead and jump on Twitch, toss us a follow there. So I wanted to talk about Hiff's brand first, but he just stepped away. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Seven. So right off the hop, I'm kind of curious your thoughts here. I mean, did you just feel like you've accomplished everything that you needed to accomplish in the J and it was just ready? You were ready for a new challenge?
Partially, but not really. I went into it a little bit with the media that I had posted, which was a bit of a farewell and a bit of a thank you. It was more of a recognizing that what I had set out to do was kind of perpetually fulfilled at this point. Like my mindset for what I wanted to see from my team has permeated and is now the mindset that Frenchie carries forward, the mindset that Jimmy carries forward in their own ways. And there was this just kind of space where I could sit back and reevaluate with my experiences now and say, okay, there's still a gap in the league from my perspective, but it's at the SHL level, and there's overlap with what I've already got experience with, so it's probably right of me to fill that space and see what I can not improve on for the league as a whole, but to something that I can provide probably.
Well, I can tell you, I'm firsthand as a long-term SHL GM. I cannot wait to see how much our drafts slow down now that you're up here. So that's very exciting for me. What about you, Rashford? I know that, you know, without leaking our private discussions here, but I know you weren't 100% sold on at the beginning applying for expansion GM. What eventually made you, decide to take that leap of faith and invest in applying for an expansion job?
Yeah, I think I took a long time to decide what I was going to do. I knew that I was in a place in the league where I just, obviously I had done and supported other people's visions for better part of 3+ years. Really
You're
enjoyed
pretty
it
good
too.
at that.
Thanks. But yeah, I had a great time doing that. And obviously I've got a lot of different experience in the SSL where been able to kind of, drive my own ship and create a organizational culture that's uniquely what I want to see. But at the same time, in the SHL, I had, never had been given a clean slate, and it's I joked with, I don't know who it was, but the timing of the expansion is maybe the worst possible time for me, with my wife and I expecting our third child. Like,
Congratulations.
yeah, not not too long from now. But I basically told my wife, I said, hey, it's your call. If you don't want me to do this, I won't do it. But yeah, it just, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, if I don't try, then I'll never do it. And so it just felt like, there's, just, you don't get this chance every time, and I'd rather take the chance. So
I just want to say, both of you may be selling yourself a little bit short here. Maybe Seven less so, but that's his brand. But like, you've both done some really phenomenal things that I don't think you hyped up enough. Like, Seven, your career in the J with the Kraken, the number of people you've put in who have been monumental members of the league in multiple positions, and just fantastic members of the community, can't be understated from that culture you built. And like, I just want to highlight that and say, like, it's been amazing. And then Rashford, like, I love you. You're one of the nicest people, but I feel like you're really underselling just how dramatic this shift was in the SSL and how much work and effort you put in and changed completely the dynamic of that team. And it's now like the fundamental SSL franchise from everything I've heard. So I know that you're a very humble person, so I'm going to do it for you, but you kicked some serious ass. And I just want to highlight that for both of you. That you've done some amazing things that maybe other people haven't been here long enough to know about, or it's in another league and they're not aware.
I think so.
Well said. So I'm interested in getting your perspectives, all three of you, and I'll chime in as well from my perspective at the end, on the whole application process. Obviously we got the head office's perspective last week where they talked about, what they were looking for in applicants and the reason why they made the selections that they did. But, for everybody, I think everybody kind of went through that application process maybe a little bit differently. And I'm curious getting some perspective from all three of you. And I'll start with 7 first. Was there anything in particular that kind of surprised you as you decided to go through this process, or anything that you learned about maybe what you were planning on doing in an expansion that kind of wasn't expected?
I think the surprising thing, I had initially started all of it as a modeling what expansion would look like, and how Montreal was going to need to approach it, and how Carolina might be affected by it in the J. And as I was building all of this, started kind of thinking about if this was something that I was interested in. And then the application, in a lot of ways, ended up being as much for myself as it was for HO. And like, okay, I can explain to them why I think I'm a good fit for this and what I'll bring, but then I'm also explaining to myself, hey, this might be like why I need to seriously consider doing this. And I wasn't quite ready for how much I would sell myself on that. Almost like if you're writing a cover letter for a job, and you're detailing out all of your experiences and why you'd be good at the job, and by the end you're like, okay, yeah, no, I deserve this job. And that kind of happened in this case as well.
What about you, Rashford? I'm muted there. That's fine. So once again, 7. We never figured out truly. Was there anything that maybe you learned about, your vision for this team, or maybe something that you didn't really anticipate retrospectively regarding your application process?
I think part of it I learned was just that it's some leagues kind of create this reality and environment that doesn't exist but exists. And just to be able to dream up something new was really fun. Like, it was just, for the first time in a long time in the SHL, I was like, oh yeah, this is like, I'm going to do something new that doesn't currently exist. And it was just really neat to be able to see, as I got deeper and deeper into that thought process, what that looked like. And it was just a fun, neat perspective.
Yeah. Hiff, what about you, my friend?
I just want to say, I thought we were going to get real philosophical with Rashford for a second, like platonic forms or something. I was excited for it. But yeah, for me, I was talking with someone earlier. I won't dox them because we were having a conversation. But I was saying, like, there's so many things in my life I have so many, like, few spoons for, like, so many fucks to give, I guess. But the SHL, I just have like this unlimited, boundless energy, which makes sense because I can't monetize it. So, I get so much excitement and joy derived from the site. And I finally get the chance to like put my mark on it and have something that represents, things that I enjoy, and a style of team and culture that's uniquely my own. And that's something that excited me a lot.
Yeah, I think what was really fun for me is I finished going to school and getting my degree about a year ago in digital marketing, and taking a lot of the things that I've learned and combining that with my passion for this community, and being able to kind of just bridge those two things together and creating a vision for a team, and selling myself, and then getting into the graphic design side of things, and kind of looking at what we can do there. That was a ton of fun. How much time did you kind of spend on your application before sending it over, 7?
The actual writing part, maybe 6-7 hours that Sunday. I sent it over like,
you waited last minute, huh?
I started writing what was actually submitted that day, and submitted it at like midnight, like somewhere in that range.
Yeah, I mean that sounds. I mean, because you did tell me right off the bat.
I did explicitly tell you and told anybody that asked if I was applying. I was like, no. Like, I was doing a lot of number crunching. I had thought a lot about it, and I had done a lot of legwork for it. So like the actual writing the app was very basic at that point.
You already did all the prep stuff.
Yeah, like I already had a good idea. Like I knew I had like mapped out different expansion rule sets, and I knew what things might look like. And I was like, okay, I can show HO like, hey, this is what I figured out for a couple different things. Given this, these are what I think viable plans are. So a lot of it was in place with the sheet already.
Was there a moment that you knew, like, hey, I'm going to apply? Like when did that happen?
Sunday, maybe Saturday. It was not a thing that when the post went up, I had no interest in it. And it took a good bit of thinking about what that would even look like, time to reconcile with the leaving Carolina bit, time to process like switching objectives, going from being entirely developmentally focused to something like where your actual objective is to win games. And it took a lot of thinking of like, okay, is this a switch that I want to make, both in job and in with everything with Carolina?
Yeah, that makes sense. Hif, what about for you, my friend?
Yeah, I started writing like slightly before, like we knew expansion was probably coming, so like a week or two prior, I started writing. I don't know if I'm a horrible writer. Everything I write, I have to edit like 10 times. It still generally comes out garbage. I had Schwartz edit it for me, and she just laughed at all the verb tenses and everything. She's like, the school teacher came out and she's like, "How did you pass high school? Like you're garbage." She didn't say that. She's much nicer than that, but that was the implied tone I took from it. But yeah, like I have to put a lot of time into writing something for it to come out okay. I think like the content I had, I can get the tone across of what I'm trying to do, but for it to seem like good, that takes a while. So it's something I had to put a good chunk of work in.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I candidly, like way back when, I kind of knew eventually expansion was coming, and it was something that I wanted to be a part of. So I was in talks, I want to say about a year ago with Flu about going in together with a team. And, obviously didn't work out on that front there. But I even had a brand made up a year ago that I did not actually go with. So my brand has not been determined for over a year, but it's been something that I've been thinking about, and kind of on that same timeline that you were talking about, Hif, I ended up starting working on mine as well. So I will say that Hif and I collaborated a lot on our application throughout the entire process. So that was really cool, being able to bounce ideas off of each other and, supplement our apps in a way that, can highlight things. What about you, Rashford? How much time did you kind of spend weighing on your decision to apply, and how much time did you spend on your application itself?
I think I wrote it a couple days before the deadline, and basically I want to say I sent it to Frenchie and just said, temporarily hold this, and I'll let you know if it's official or not. Because I was still very much on the fence about whether or not I had thought I could give the time it needs to really get something up off the ground and running. And I very explicitly stated all of the potential downsides in my application to HO and just said, hey, this is me being honest, and this is what's going on, and this is what's going on in my life these days. But yeah, it was very much a lot of thinking, and then just, okay, let's put pen to paper, let's write it down, and make it official. And then I think on the actual deadline day, I said, okay, Frenchie, put it in. So it was basically, not necessarily a last day submission, but officially submitted on the last day.
Gotcha. Well, I think this is a good opportunity for us to, provide HIF a chance to, highlight his brand that he's already revealed, the Madison Valkyries. So that's very, very exciting. Congratulations on unveiling your brand. I'm just kind of curious if you could share a little bit more context into why Madison. And I know you said this in your media post, but just kind of talk through it. Why Madison? Why the Valkyries brand? Why the color scheme? All that stuff. I'd like to get some of that, context from you, my friend.
Yeah. So why Madison? Madison is I really like Wisconsin as a hockey state. College hockey is massive there. They're incredibly passionate sports fans. You can tell by Green Bay, the population of Green Bay is actually smaller than Madison, but it's one of the most iconic football brands in the world. It might be the most, actually. I'm not sure. Maybe the Chiefs are passing it lately. But absolutely just an incredible, passionate group of fans. They live and breathe by their sport fans. It's also they're getting a professional women's soccer team in Madison, as well as, the Wisconsin won a women's college hockey. So not just, if I'm going with Valkyries, which is a female branding, having a place that, is big in terms of women's sports as a way to drive that engagement was important to me. I think that was a really cool tie-in. So that's why Madison. I also really enjoyed that Wally lives there. Get to bring a team to where he's from. I was open to spots in Wisconsin, but Madison was a little extra special in terms of that. The Valkyries, I like Norse mythology. So the Valkyries, I think I realized that it's after the fact. It's been used by the Golden State Warriors women's team in the women's basketball league. We have very different logos. I'm sure theirs wouldn't get roasted. But they had the same name. But again, I like Norse mythology. There was the Scandinavian migration into the Midwest in the 1860s in America, mostly concentrated in Minnesota. But I can't really just tell Eddie to get out and take his butterflies with him. And the color scheme, it's really just based off the old Mighty Ducks color scheme. It was my favorite in the league. I apologize for the sirens. I live downtown Toronto. But I really like the purple's my favorite color, and I think it mixes really well with the green. It makes a good contrast, but something very unique that isn't often seen in the leagues. And it's just something I really loved.
Yeah, no, I love it, dude. Honestly, the brand, I mean, I'm a Norse mythology guy myself. I mean, I have a whole Norse mythology tattoo sleeve. So I love the brand. And as soon as you told me your idea, I was like, damn it, that's a really good idea. And I really kind of would have loved to run with something like that. But super happy you were able to bring it to fruition. I know that there's still maybe some pending changes on the final logo.
Oh, yeah, we're doing both. We're taking the feedback because I know it started off a little hostile, but there was definitely some really great things brought up. I had some conversations with Alex and Carrie because they were a lot of the more productive people trying to give really thought out advice. And I'm trying to bring something. I'm not straying away from what I want it to be, but I want it to be executed better. I don't have the eye for it that these people do, so I just miss these things. I had requested a lot of changes, but these things I don't notice to that level as these people. So I appreciate their insight, and I want to bring that branding in a similar style, but in a better executed fashion. So it'll take a little bit of time.
So we've already seen HIF's branding. We got to ask, the question's already been asked in the chat. When can we expect to see other brands. So I will say that all four of us are collaborating with one another to make sure that we're not stepping on each other's toes. We're all giving each other enough time to breathe and let our brands be, highlighted the appropriate amount of time. So there's no concrete dates right now, but I will say that my team will be branded. The branding will be released next, probably in the next few days or so. And then after that, we're going to follow up with whomever is ready at that point. Maybe Rashford, maybe Seven. That cadence is yet to be determined. So just stay tuned. You'll get all the brands, not all at once. But we're very excited to show all the things that we are cooking up to the SHL masses. Moving on, is there anything during your application process, gentlemen, that you think really helped you stand out and differentiate enough to be selected by the head office? And I'm going to go to Seven first on this one.
As far as differentiating,
yeah, why do you think you're better than me?
That's a dangerous question to put me on the spot for. Not just with you, but across the league, probably. I think probably just the consistency of like, yeah, I'm the one of the four of us that doesn't have at this point extensive SHL GMing experience, but there's such a clear track record of what HO would expect to get from my hire, that like even without that explicit example to point to, like you can look at how I maintained and directed an SHL community environment, and look at how I've taken projects from startup to functional areas, like with the events team. Hockey Talk Tonight and SHN back during the pandemic weren't really quite on that level, but a very clear example of how I'll dig deep into a project and continue working with something that's very community engagement oriented.
Rashford, what about you, my friend?
I think the more I learn about who has applied for this role, the more I realize, there's definitely so many good options. I wouldn't say there's anything about my app that makes me more deserving than, the next 2, 3, 4 people.
Sure. That was completely a comment, like just curious, like what you think kind of shined in your app.
I think. Obviously, I've now been around consistently for 3+ years. Maybe it's 4 years. I don't know at this point, but I think I've just been consistently around. And I think when it comes to what HO was looking for, is they were looking for a reliable individual that they could just, hand the keys and not necessarily feel like they had to be super hands-on. And I assume that they felt that with all four of us, where it's not like they felt like they were concerned of, we feel confident about 2 apps, but the other 2 apps aren't. And so I think that's maybe what HO, decided with us, and just felt like, hey, we've 4 expansion teams and 1 off season is large. And having 4 that they felt confident in is a lot off their plate, given there's obviously a ton of rule sets and nuances and just a lot of unknowns that come with even a normal expansion, let alone double the amount that the league would normally expand by.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Obviously, this is pending the full expansion rules being approved and everything like that. There's a lot of things that we still need to figure out on that front there. But initially, I just want to kind of go around the room and gauge your thoughts on maybe your initial strategy. Do you plan on maybe, because it does look like there's going to be a lot of talent exposed for expansion claims in the expansion draft. Do you think that maybe you're going to opt to go toward a younger, longer term model, or are you going to try to see if we can just you can just go for it right off the hop? So I'm going to go over to HIF on this one first.
Yeah, so it really depends on who is and isn't protected. I generally lean on trying to bring in my personal group of people. So like, I don't want to, if there's a way to avoid it, I don't want to take people from their team that they've been on a long time and, they were drafted there. I don't want to like have that situation where they don't feel like they can retain their team. So ideally, if there's people that they really like, the teams really want to retain, my ideal scenario is finding a way to make a deal with those teams that gives us some assets, but like helps keep those people on their team so they can maintain their core and what they've been building, but also help me build up something longer term. So probably more of a slow burn is my thought. But it really depends on who's available. Like if there's the option to just go for it and that seems the best route, I'm going to try to beat you all for the cup first. No doubt about it.
Rashford, and I know you're a man who keeps his cards close to your vest. So what do you have for me on this front too? I mean, do you have any initial plans off the hop that you're willing to share?
I think there's even something before talking about that I want to say.
Yeah.
In most expansions, like there's often ruling around like, if there's 2 expansion teams, each team can only take one from one team. And so that when one team selects from one team, that locks out that team for the other GM. We don't have that in this expansion draft because there's 4 of us and each team's only losing 3, let's for lack of better words, assets. And so a team is never like, no expansion team is guaranteed to be able to select from another organization. So even though, in Seven's case, Montreal's losing him, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that each of us get something from Montreal. And I feel like that makes this draft really unique because as an expansion GM, at no point are you truly able to say, oh, I don't have to pick from this team because I can just grab from them later. And I think that is a really neat wrinkle in this expansion draft that probably previous ones haven't had. And I know at least the SSL hasn't had that on their end of things. So I think that's going to make it really interesting what kind of strategies we all come up with. And I think because I think we've all been around and we're all pretty much heavily involved, I have a feeling we're going to all have to really adjust our strategies on the fly. I think I probably lean towards HFFO in the same sense of like, I would much rather the people that want to be in my organization be people that really want to be there. And I just don't know if I'm going to find that out that, some of the exposed players that are in an older point of their career are going to want to be those people. And some people might, might not. And so
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could say yes or no to any specific strategy at this point. I just think until we see those exposed lists, it's going to be really hard to know, is it possible to get in young talent that's already SHL ready? Or is there only going to be 3 rounds of that where, we just, because there's 4 of us and there's no guarantee of what team you can pull from, it makes it really tough to get it. So.
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say. And I think I mean, obviously it's very much the paint isn't dry yet or anything. So we can't even, A, the rules aren't finalized, and B, we don't have lists. So we can't really make a concrete plan. But I do think it's going to be fascinating to watch how each one of us, creates our own strategies and how we execute it. Because each one of us do have a good track record of building competitive rosters from one way or the other.
I mean, I do think you kind of tied yourself into a plan. You were tired to recreate it, and generally the GM is the basis of the plan. So, out of all of us, we can kind of see where you're going in terms of thought process.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit there for sure. I mean, I do hope to build a younger team, but it does look like there's going to be a lot of assets that are maybe on that younger / almost contending window that maybe I wouldn't have to go as young as maybe I had originally anticipated. So, but I'm also a degenerate that likes recreating a lot. So that was also pretty fun for me to go through the J draft experience once again. 7, over to you, my friend.
Yeah. Rash kind of took my part of my answer, highlighting the flexibility. I think that my biggest strength in the past and going forward is how much prep and flexibility I can build into my plans. That I can react probably very well to the other three of you, and to the league in general, which was part of what I highlighted actually in my app to HO, as I was like, hey, these are all the common ways that SHL teams are being built. Here's something that they're not doing that I can take advantage of. And I think that that can not directly apply here, but I think that that is something that I'm looking to identify and capitalize on. Beyond that,
and what is that? What is that you're planning on doing that other GMs aren't doing?
Secrets.
For sure.
But no, I think that there's a couple different strategies for building SHL teams, and I think that they all have inherent weaknesses, but I think that there's ways to capitalize more on, like, if you're doing something with intent, that means you're valuing some things and devaluing other things. And when you're devaluing things, that's an opportunity for me to build a plan around things that are not being valued. So by that logic, as we're going to all be settling into plans, I want my flexibility to be my strength, in that I'm going to identify what you're doing and recognize where I can deviate and pick up where you guys might not be grabbing the same value. Beyond that, I think that I have a big advantage coming up from the J, that I have a much different, or a very different perspective and a very different way of networking, connecting with people. Not to say that you guys don't have that, but there's something to be said that either me or my co-GM or one of 2 or 3 scouts in Carolina has interacted with pretty much everybody that's come through the league, at least on 1 or 2 players at this point. And while I don't have, insane reports with all of those people, there's something to be said that there will potentially be people that are more open to a new experience with somebody that they've seen working alongside them in the J than the other 3 of you that have only worked at the SHL level.
So are you referring to what's known as subliminal tampering? And do you think it should be in the rule book?
No, but I think that that's not necessarily even related to me being a JGM. Like, if this was all taking place 2 years ago, it would have been relevant to the fact that I was running Hockey Talk Tonight with Dwight and Smith and Flex. The fact that you guys are on SHL Tonight has its own similar effect. It's just ways that you're more known and more comfortable from the perception of people that are now exposed and having to consider being on a different team.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, right off the bat, I'll tell you, like, since I started doing SHL Tonight, I've had multiple people in my DMs like, Ace, I always thought you were just like a jerk and a dick, but now that I like see you on the podcast, I can see you're just like having a good time, and half of the things you say are just sarcastic. I was like, yeah,
people can
true.
be two things. Don't.
I was gonna say, don't worry, you still are.
Well, you got to be really careful with that, because sometimes you have a lot of opinions on your podcast, and that rubs people the wrong way too.
I think if you don't have opinions, that rubs me the wrong way, honestly. Like, I want someone who can just have thoughts and just vocalize them, even if I disagree with them, which it's me. So I probably.
And that's some of the best entertainment too, right? Is when people disagree with one another. If everybody's just in lockstep saying the same thing, it's not a fun product anyway. So, not saying come here and say controversial things just to stir the pot, but please, we're here for discussion and debate as well.
It's actually interesting, Ace. You saying that, I feel like you and I, when we GM together, I feel like there's actually a lot of things we did disagree on, which actually allowed us to find maybe a third solution to what we were going through as a team that was better than either of our perspectives, because we were able to actually walk through that and say, no, my perspective is this, your perspective is that, and found something that worked. I mean, it didn't work in the finals, but we found something that worked in general. So it did once, yeah.
One time,
but miracles do happen. So,
to be fair, regardless of if it only had one finals win, that team was an absolute juggernaut for a very long time. You should both be proud of that. Honestly, that was a fantastic team.
Always be proud. There they are. But yeah, I think that this has been a fun, productive conversation so far. I'm kind of intrigued, and without risking maybe talking about the markets in which that you will be competing against directly, is there maybe a team in which that you really kind of look at and say, hey, I want to bring them down a peg. I want them to be my rival. Any teams in mind that you think that you would like to kind of hone in on? If you already have your brand revealed over in Madison, so are you looking at Minnesota? Is that going to be your rival?
Absolutely not. What I want to do is I want to be Wally's rival, so that the team he's rivals with is his beloved Madison, and just watch him tear up inside and see how he handles it.
Yeah, I mean, I have all the respect for Luke in the world, but when I departed the New England Wolfpack and I saw Luke take it over, a little part of me inside died. I'm not going to lie on that front there. So I'll always want to see the New England Wolfpack do well. And when I saw Luke take it over, I was like, I want to take him down for sure. Then he beat me, and then I beat him. But hey, whatever. Seven, what about you? Do you have any franchise in mind that you would like to maybe a rival?
I think the natural fit for that's going to be Tampa and Calgary. Obviously, Flex and Dwight and I go way, way back at this point. Like Dwight and I were teammates in college, like 12, 13 years ago at this point. So there's a long history and friendship between us and Smith and Cobb and the other guys that would intermittently be on Hockey Talk. So I think this is me kind of stepping up into their realm and seeing if I can, in a way, hang with what they've been doing.
Rashford.
I honestly think naturally it's going to be your team, Ace. And, I say that with a smile on my face, because I think we had some great times together. And so I think it'll just be fun, the fact that we are both starting different teams at the same time. And I mean, the four of us will always be compared against each other as expansion GMs in the same expansion. But I just think it'll be fun to always, did I make the playoffs? Did you make the playoffs? Did you knock me out? Did I knock you out? Whatever it is, right? And I have no idea what it's going to look like conference-wise or divisions or any of that jazz, right? We just don't know. And FHN 10 is going to have a new wrinkle in and of itself. But I just think that'll be a fun little measuring stick each season that I'm sure one of us will DM the other person and say, I got you this time.
What if we all just put ourselves in the same conference?
What if we just
have our own division?
Our own division.
No, we just all explicitly go east or west, and they have to realign, and we all end up in the same.
Sorry,
Yeah.
HO. I'm gonna have to switch my branding.
I mean, I won't lie. I'm very confident in my ability to run and manage an SHL team, but I am a little afraid to have to be compared to you all consistently because you've all done some wonderful things. So I think I'll do good, but I also have full faith in each one of you. I think you're all going to do really excellent as well.
Well, I'm really looking forward to is us being able to match up against an established franchise that has been running for so long, and how soon we can get up to speed and compete. And I didn't really truly answer my own question there. Who I kind of have penciled in as somebody that I want to compete with. And I mean, I got to say, I just departed a great situation in Winnipeg. That team is like loaded, ready to go. I'm always going to have an eye on the Winnipeg Aurora, and that's going to be the measuring stick for me to try to get my team back and above where the Aurora is. With that said, I'm always going to be an Aurora fan. I still have friends over there, obviously, from being there so long. The current co-GM is applying to be the head GM there. That's a big woo. There you go. That's out. So I'm always available to help him out too if he has questions and stuff. But I'm always going to have an eye out for Winnipeg, and I would like to see my new team, TBD, expansion team number 1, if you will, bring down the Winnipeg Aurora from time to time. All right. Just kind of curious going around the room here and have you guys, decided on your strategy for co-GMs? I know HIF has his job posting up for a co-GM. I have my job posting up for a co-GM. So, hey, if you're in the chat and you're looking and you have permission from your general manager, have them reach out to us and go ahead and have that conversation. But Seven, what about you? What is in your ideal co-GM, spot there?
I thought you were just going to ask me an easier question than that. But ideal co-GM, I think Rash kind of hit on it really well when he was describing the two of you GMing together. And it was something that, like, I was only co-GM with Fuzz for a season. But then we were working together building LAP for a while. I spent time in Seattle with Tig and then Adam and then Eddie. And now in Montreal, like, I've been around situations in the SHL where I've been enabled to make critical decisions at times and been allowed to voice my opinions. And the thing that really stands out is that when Fuzz and I were working in Los Angeles, we almost never saw eye to eye. And that was frequently frustrating, I think, for both of us. But it, like Rash was alluding to, is incredibly valuable to have people around you that you can trust that are going to explicitly stick in and say, no, I don't agree with this. And back up what they're saying, but not be afraid to put you in your place to an extent. Because I think that if you're limiting your inputs, if everybody's kind of on the same page as you, agreeing with you, you come up with a plan and they say yes, you're putting a lot of faith in your ability to be right every single time. And I would say I'm not that full of myself to think that. So a big shift from when I was developing a lot of co-GMs in Carolina to send them out into the SHL world, I'd still ask them to dig in and push me when I was wrong. But that's a kind of a critical point now, that I'm not looking. I'll still happily develop anybody, but I'm not looking for somebody to just kind of sit there and nod their head at what I'm doing.
Yeah, like when I was GMing in Edmonton, Ramen told me his most important job was just telling me no. Like just say no sometimes and just see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I think that's important. And like I said, you get the most productive things because you find channels like Rashford was saying, you find channels that maybe you wouldn't have seen further without that level of disagreement. So 7, is that a confirmation that you are indeed going to be hiring a co-GM?
Probably. I can't imagine where I wouldn't. But I haven't gotten around to posting it, and I guess being asked that question and implying that I am going to have somebody will mean that I'll just continue to get cold calls about if I'll hire them. So, which that's been really fun and actually really interesting conversations. But I probably should actually get on with that, and probably sometime this weekend.
Nice. Rashford, I believe you have your job posting up too. Is that correct?
Yeah, I posted it yesterday or day before that. I don't have like a time frame of when I want to hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally before the baby comes, but I said it to someone that like really what I'm looking for in a co-GM is just someone I can trust, that I can just say, hey, I need you to do this, or I need your opinion on this. Just like I'm not looking for a specific skill set. I'm not looking for a specific, like, you don't have to be a tactician. You don't have to be an amazing scout. You don't have to be an amazing locker room presence. But I just want the right fit. Someone who's willing to build something from scratch. And I'm not looking for someone who just wants to be here for a season or two and just try
100%.
it. I'd rather someone who's like, hey, let's combine and let's put some time and effort into this and see where it really takes us. So yeah, I've had a couple of people reach out so far, and I'm going to continue chatting with those people and look forward to anyone else who reaches out. But yeah, it won't be something that I decide this week or next week. It'll probably be something that I take some time and especially just figure out what the what the rules are around the expansion and how their player might fit into that, and really just trying to wrap my head around everything, because I don't want to put them in an awkward situation. I don't want to put our team and organization into an awkward situation either. So really just let it happen as it should, and not try to force something.
Could you say organization for me one more time?
Organization.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna say Rash brought up a good point. I was like hesitant to post mine, like you guys all did yesterday, and I was like, okay, maybe like I should get on board with this, but I wasn't super eager to get in there and like start hiring until we like had an actual rule set. So you guys kind of put me on the spot and got me thinking about it way quicker than I wanted to.
I apologize for that, but hey, it's kind of funny, Rashford, that we already talked about the way that we collaborated in the past, and when I've had a few good productive conversations with prospective co-GMs recently, and the partnership that we had is the first thing that I say that I'm looking for again. I'm like, hey, the amount of time that I worked with Rashford, the success that we had was largely in part because we were able to have that synergy for so long. And I'm not looking for somebody that thinks that, hey, I want to come and do an expansion draft and pull, Houdini and disappear. I want somebody that's going to be invested in this. And I understand real life comes up, totally acknowledge that. But, I want somebody thinking that, hey, I can come in here, put 12 months towards this, put 18 months towards this, that type of thing. So there can be a long-term, partnership there.
Personally, in my co-GM hiring experience, I kind of went in and I was like, maybe we'll get one good app, because like usually when you're hiring a co-GM, it hasn't been great, like the hiring pool for SHL co-GMs lately.
Yeah,
generally been hard to find people who think that they would bring. Like people underestimate their value in terms of what they can bring as an SHL co-GM a lot, so they kind of just don't apply for that reason, or time constraints and things can come up. Not everyone can be so lucky as to have Phantomins, just an amazing co-GM. But like I've had 4 very distinct profiles of individuals who've applied who are excellent, and I didn't expect it. And now I'm like, shit, like I have to actually think about this and take the time and go through the process. Like one of the people who applied I've never talked to before, but I've really noticed their kind of like their player and their site personality. And I was like, that's like that. I've never considered this person because I've never talked to them, but like they're really good and I could see it working completely. So I've actually been overwhelmed a little bit with how great the response has been in terms of the people, but that's an exciting part to make sure you're getting the right candidate.
I mean, that's got to be really appealing too, right? I mean, it's the same thing that made us all have an interest in applying for expansion GM. It's not just another SHL GM job. It is the chance to be a part of, something brand new and have your fingerprints on an organization from maybe not day one, but day 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever. So I do think that that's probably going to generate a little bit more interest than, traditional GMs. But speaking from a traditional SHL GM perspective, I would say that I found that there was maybe a stigma around SHL GMing, that it was, tremendously difficult or, abrasive at times and that type of stuff. And I will say that I would like to commend the head office and the rest of the SHL GMs for kind of changing that tone a little bit. I feel like in the last, 2 years or so, it's a much better place in that GM Discord channel today than what it was in the past. So if that's ever been something that's been an obstacle for you, a listener, to maybe take your chance at GMing at the SHL level, don't let that be in the way. Like, take a leap of faith and try something new. Any closing thoughts from our expansion GMs before we wrap up today's episode here, guys? I'll kind of just send it around the room. If there's anything else you want to talk about with your team, or, just kind of bring up for a topic around the room, we'll go ahead and use this time to do that. Additionally, in the audience, guys, once again, please make sure that you're following us on Twitch. I see a lot of Twitch comments today, which is fantastic. We really appreciate that. So make sure you toss a follow there. If you guys have any questions for any of the expansion GMs, just let me know who and what your question is. We'll throw it on the screen and we will tackle that. So while we're waiting on those questions to come in, we'll start going around the room here. Rashford, just because I know that you've got kiddos running around and stuff, I want to make sure I give you a platform first, just, to see if, you have anything specifically you would like to start off with.
Oh, my kids are not running around. They're supposed to be sleeping.
Okay.
But no, I think we were all in GM chat yesterday, and obviously, when the initial idea of rules for protections list came out, it's never fun to lose players, but at the same time, it's interesting how the entire scope of the league will change in one off season. We'll go from teams that have been perennial top teams that are gonna shift a little bit, and teams that were trying to take a step up are gonna potentially be able to take a step up, because I think not only are we going to see expansions happen, but I think we're going to see a lot of trades leading up to it. I think we're going to see a lot of trades after it. I think there's going to be some interesting free agent signings. Like, I think all the things that people want to see in a simulation league, I think we're going to get it all in a 2-3 week period where the landscape of the SHL is going to look very different than it did prior to that. I'm just really excited to see what that looks like. And FHM10 is going to give us some fun wrinkles. Our new little dot and puck mini stick version of a sim game is going to, show us what the new landscape looks like. Should be a good time.
A whole new world, if you will. Seven, what about you, my friend?
I
can come back to you if you want.
Sure.
All right. Hif, do you have anything, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, just like kind of riffing on Rasher, but like I'm really excited to see what the process brings out. I'm incredibly excited to see all of your brandings. I know that you've given some hints to us in our little group chat, but I think you all have some very unique ideas. And I'm excited to see just, what comes out, and your teams and my teams. Like I'm almost as excited for all of your teams as I am for mine. I think, it's really a great time to see expansion teams and how they develop. So I'm just eager to see what comes out of it all, really.
Yeah, I'll echo the excitement. It's very fun to be in such a unique position. Like you think of how infrequently this happens, and to be one of, I guess, the pivotal entities is a really exciting and fun time for somebody that likes to consider the impact that they've had on the league. So that's a fun extension of that. I'll say that in teasing brandings, I slipped at some point in this episode a decent hint about what my branding is. So if you overanalyze the VOD, you might get some ideas.
I love that. Love that. We do have some good questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and throw them up here on the screen now. The first one is going to be from Gams. Who will win the first cup between the four of you? You can't pick yourself. So that's a fun one. So say something nice about your peers, essentially, Gams is saying. We'll go ahead and start off with HIF.
I've been saying nice things about all of you the whole time, so I don't know what but I think just based on the discussions we've had, not on any like talent or anything, but like, you know, Rashford kind of said he's, you know, me and him kind of like a slow burn in an ideal world. And I think 7, you brought up like you have connections, so I think, you know, that might be able to have a contending roster brought together quicker, especially from expansion draft or free agency. So if I had to put money on it, I'd probably say 7, especially since Ace also just retired as players. So that's going to set that back a bit. So that's where my smart money would be.
Excellent. Rashford, who would you pick out of the four of us?
Yeah,
I remember I don't win cups, so I shouldn't be anyone's pick.
Yeah, no, I my first instinct would be 7, just because of the existing player and how, you know, having an existing player that is, if I remember correctly, nearing peak or on its way to peak.
Yeah, 76. So
yeah,
I'm at like
So no,
1500.
he's a season older than mine, so we're fairly similar in terms of players at the moment.
But yeah, I was definitely thinking 7, and then I would say my backup pick would be HFFO actually.
And 7.
I think Rash, specifically that I think that there's something to be said about the value of his experience running an SSL team. Not that it's going to give any like tangible benefits, but there's the additional variety of experiences is incredibly valuable from a strategy perspective, not from a explicit strategy perspective, but from a how you're going to conceptually think about your team and how you're going to navigate. Having additional varied experiences is very critical, I think.
Yeah, I can see that as well. I mean, I know the way that Rashford runs things, and I know that he's going to be very sharp. But just to be a contrarian, I will go HIF. I think HIF probably has a good plan of what he's looking to do. He already knows that I'm going to go young, so he's probably going to look for those middle tier players, and I'm sure you two may be doing that as well. But you know, I think that his players at that age that can be really, you know, good to build around for that next window in the next, you know, 5 seasons or so. And I think right now with some of the decisions that some of these teams are being forced to make conceptually about protecting youth rather than, you know, players that might be in their core right now, it could be a potential of, you know, building a somewhat competitive team right off the hop. And then there's always that appeal in free agency, right? You know, oh, a brand new team, I can go and, you know, be a part of season 1, and, you know, you can supplement that expansion roster with, you know, top tier quality. And I know that HIF has the relationships around the league to make those connections and bring in free agents. So you should see all the tampering he's doing. It's great.
I don't know if you could actually joke about that. That's
They're not connections. It's just tampering. HO, find me, please.
Yeah, and only people with tamperable contracts, for the record,
or free agents.
Legal purposes.
We are allowed to talk to free agents currently, even if we don't Can't
That's
roster
true.
twice a
That's
roster.
true. Yep, exactly. Then, and it kind of ties into another question that we got here before we wrap up here, guys. And let me just grab that again. There we go. Question for all: do you think an expansion, any of the four of our teams, will win a cup in the first 5 seasons? We'll go around.
If
Rashford,
if
you go
someone, yeah, I think if someone commits to trying to be the best possible team on day one, I think they can do it in the first 5 seasons. But it would take a serious effort in how they manage their trades with other existing teams. And I do have to bounce 1 second. I got a kid crying 1 second.
Yep, you're good.
So I think just purely on math, the odds are like over 10 seasons, like 45% if one team wins per season. Obviously,
it's way better than that, actually.
Okay, well, see, I'm not good at math, but yeah. So just on odds, the odds are pretty good, according to our resident math expert. Thanks for bringing the guest on to make me look dumb. No, yeah. So I think just purely on that, it's likely, but it really just depends on what we build in the directions we go, as well as the FHM 10. It could bring a lot of interesting wrinkles, and whoever adapts to it, if it has substantial changes, which I don't think there are huge ones, but the nuance can be a factor, would help.
Yep. Seven, what's your take on this?
Echoing Hiff's, the math is actually like 60%. If you assume every team's equal, there's like
which they're not.
Yeah. And like we're starting from a disadvantageous position.
Yeah, agreed.
But if you assume all teams equal 20 out of 20, the 4 teams on the outside would win a cup in the first 5 years like 60% of the time. Over 10 seasons, you're looking at like 15 or 85% chance. So very likely, yes, but it's going to be a factor of how quickly and how efficiently we all differently navigate the expansion process and go from the expansion level up to the contending cyclical resources replenished level that the SHL teams normally operate at.
Excellent. Well, I think that's going to.
Trips has been fishing this question like 6 times, so I just want to give Trips an acknowledgement to it. Yes, Yasna is a badass, scary warrior woman. She would fit a Valkyrie vibe excellent. But maybe we'll get a shard blade going on some kind of alternate logo. But yeah, I know you asked it like 4 times. So I want to acknowledge it. But yeah, if you ever read Stormlight, I highly recommend it. It's a good fantasy series.
Excellent. All right, everybody. On behalf of SHL Tonight, 7, appreciate you taking the time to join us. And guys, make sure you keep an eye out for that maybe a Hockey Talk Tonight episode coming out soon with some fun expansion news for 7's franchise. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. Rashford, thank you for joining us as well, my friend. Hiff, as always, great to have you here, buddy. And to all of you that tuned in to listen, I appreciate your listenership. And we'll be back at it again next week. Next week might be an interesting episode. I believe that Hiff and I may be doing the SMJHL draft for the podcast. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Stay tuned for more information about the next episode. We'll have some fun stuff to talk about. But until then, we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Thanks, guys.